Lee Smith.
Sorry, no, Vicky. I apologize not remembering who, new council joining or?
Lee Smith will be joining.
Great, okay, thank you. As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Permit me to confirm all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tom Dixon.
Here.
Dave Iverson.
Here.
Chantal Murphy. Move to Rima Sherry.
I'm here. The mute button would not press.
Sorry, I got you now. I got Chantal and Rima on that one. Thank you all. Steph, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Christy Ferrantella.
Here.
Ellis Ramos.
Here.
Great. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. I think we have a lot of people listed today. We'll kind of chime in when we get there just to keep pace moving. Good afternoon. This is an open meeting. The Affordable Housing Trust is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening via video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating via video conference. Accordingly, be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We'll turn to the first item on the agenda, but before we do, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, we'll go down a line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Hold until your name is called. Further, remember to mute your phone or your computer when you are not speaking. Remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Please identify yourself on your Zoom. For any response, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. Taking care to identify yourself. Items with public comment. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. With that, I know that we have a time constraint of 1:30, so I just want to mention that to start. We will we'll do our best to have an efficient meeting. Are there any items on the agenda that we want to look to edit, change, or move, Christy or Ellis?
Nope, everything is good to go.
Okay. Are we holding one CCAP application, Ellis, till a later date?
We are
Okay, and that's
holding,
report?
that's Juan Pablo's.
Okay.
We will be holding it because he doesn't have everything yet.
Okay, great. With that, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda with that one item being held over.
Motion to approve the agenda with the one item held over.
Great.
Second.
Second by Dave. Okay, let me see. Vote by roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Chantal Murphy,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan tonight. We will open for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to make public comment today? If you are here specifically for the lease to locals, we'll take that item then. This is for generally anything else of public comment. Seeing none, I'll close public comment, going once, going twice. Okay, public comment is closed. Item 4, approval of minutes for the May 21st, 2024 meeting. Are there any edits, comments, changes?
I'm going to recuse Brian. I wasn't present at that meeting, I don't believe.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Look for a motion to approve the minutes as written
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
Second from Rima by roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Chantal Murphy.
I don't think I was at that one either. I'm recusing.
You can vote for them.
Okay, Ellis, can
Oh, thanks,
you?
Ellis. We can vote for them even if we weren't present, so aye.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't realize
Meg
you could
Bowers
hear me.
Aye.
and Penny Dye. Penny, I missed you.
Aye.
Thank you. And Brian Sullivan's and I. I will, well, that was approval of minutes. Item 5, announcements. Christy, do you want to take on the announcements?
I just wanted the public to know that there's currently 2 open lotteries. The first one is with Habitat for Humanity, and that's 4 homes for home ownership that are being built on Waite Drive. The applications are open until July 15th. And you can always reach out to Jennifer at Habitat for Humanity if you have any questions around the application. These will serve families making 80% of area median income or below. And there are 2, there's a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom home. The second lottery is for Housing Nantucket's development at 31 Fairgrounds Road called Wiggles Way. And this is a rental property lottery, and there's going to be 6 units of affordable rentals restricted at 80% of AMI and 16 units of workforce housing restricted at 150% of AMI. And this is, the lottery is open until July 2nd, and that's scheduled to be completed this summer. So I just want to make sure the community knows about these opportunities and to get on their websites for Habitat for Humanity and Housing Nantucket. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Penny?
Yeah, I have another announcement I would like to make. Most everybody knows by now that Ken Bogran passed away on May the 31st. I've just learned that the memorial service will be Saturday, July 13th at 11 o'clock at St. Paul's Church on Fair Street.
Penny, I'm sorry, you said the time?
11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
St. Paul's.
11 a.m. Thank you. Ken was a dedicated housing advocate, a big loss. So thank you for sharing that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Tom.
through you to Penny. Penny, you said 13th, but Saturday?
Yeah,
Is-
July 13th.
Oh, never mind.
With that, Christy, I'll set on announcements.
Yes.
So I will close item 5, open 6, CCAP application for Martin and Biljana Ali at 24B Evergreen Way. Ellis, do you want to go over the application?
Yes. So
Thank you.
I received the application from Martin and Biljana Ali. They have all the paperwork. They are purchasing 24B Evergreen Way, which is already deed restricted at 175% AMI and below. And I have got all the paperwork from them. The only thing that they're missing is a closing date because they have not got that from the developers.
Are there any questions from members of the board? Is there a motion anyone would like to make?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. With just a little more clarity, Tom, if I can, approve closing cost assistance up to $15,000, any funds to be returned to the trust. Is that an acceptable amendment?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Great,
would-
thank you.
I'll re-second.
Penny?
Do we need to add and authorize you to sign, or is that included?
No, not on these. I
Thank
don't. Vote by roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Tom Murphy. You mute.
Aye.
Thank you. Meg Bowers,
Aye.
Penny Dye.
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's and I do want to say it's a real pleasure to have everybody here today of our board and everybody else. let's see, where'd I go? Request an approval of a license agreement for Barrett Enterprise to use the lot at 12 Bartlett Road. Looking for discussion and action. Christy, can you bring the board up to speed on the request here?
Absolutely. So last week I received a request from Trevor Barrett at Barrett Enterprises that they're in the middle of trying to do a house move, actually scheduled for tomorrow, June 12th to 13 Bartlett Road. And they learned last week that a utility pole needs to be upgraded and replaced prior to the house being moved to the site. And they were hoping that the issue would be resolved before the house move, but in talking with Trevor today, it's still an outstanding request. So they're requesting the use of our vacant land at 12 Bartlett Road to stage the house while the utility pole is being replaced, and then they would then move the house across the street. This is for employee housing for a local business, and they are going to bump into the town's moratorium on house moves if it's not completed at the scheduled date. So they're requesting for an approval, and if approved, I'd work with town council to draft a license agreement for the house to be staged on our property for 30 days.
All right, well, since it will be across the street, will they be allowed to go past the town's date just to move it?
Yes.
Great. Penny?
Sorry, is there an indemnification agreement in place, insurance, something like that?
That will all be part of the license agreement that I would draft with town council.
Okay, and then is there a date not to be exceeded on this? Is that necessary? I don't know if it is.
I was going to have 30 days because we are getting ready to issue the RFP for Bartlett Road. And so if we're doing any site visits, we would want it to be back to its state.
Does Trevor Barrett feel that 30 days is adequate?
Yes.
Thank you.
My only comment would just the site be returned to current condition. Any other questions, comments? Anybody want to make a motion on this item?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the request. Authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote by roll call. Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
John Tom Murphy,
Aye.
Meg Bowers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Thank you. Request for funding, so we'll close item 7, item 8, request for funding for lease to locals program and discussion. So we have a lot of people here for this item. I'm gonna pass to Christy to open the discussion. I think that the applicant has a number of general public that would like to make a statement. We'll start with general public statements and then move into the presentation to finish, and then any board questions or comments to finalize. I just kind of outline a game plan. So to you, Christy.
Thank you, Brian. So Lease to Locals is here today to speak about the pilot program that they launched last September. And just as a reminder to everybody, this was a program that was meant to incentivize homeowners to provide year-round housing in exchange for a stipend. And this was launched with Act Now Community Initiatives and Placemate as kind of the software to interact between the two. This program directly aligns with the Select Board's strategic plan, and specifically goal number 3, which states to explore incentives to encourage year-round rentals. So Colin and the team are here today to discuss the results of the pilot program and the relaunch of a program, an official program with request from funding with the trust. There are a few community members that Brian mentioned that are here today to speak. And so I would just ask that you raise your hand and you can be called on by the chair. And then we'll turn it over to Colin to go through his slide deck.
Great. Thank you, Christy. So show of hands of anybody that would like to talk on the topic before Colin makes the presentation. Jack, let me grab Penny real quick and then I'll come to you, Jack. Penny?
Procedural question. Is Vicky here? I don't see her. I just want to make sure.
Vicky is is not here, but Lee Smith, the new counsel for the trust from KP Law, is here. There he is. Just
There he
came
is.
on screen.
Well, welcome, first of all. And
Thank you.
thank you for taking on this role for us. I just want to make sure we had counsel here. Thank you.
Yep, I'm listening.
Thanks, Lee. So by show of hands, I saw Jack Bulger's hand go up. Jack, floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here to speak in favor of the Lease to Locals program. The hospital, as many of you probably already know, was a very big beneficiary of the program. We made connections with, I think, 9 of our employees here with property owners for long-term leases. So we're very happy about that. I have with me Maxine Morgan, one of the members of the Nantucket Cottage Hospital family here. And she would like to say just a couple of words about her experience. She did sign a lease through the program. And so, Maxine.
Hi, everyone. Well, I must be grateful for Jack because he was the one who actually pushed, not really push, but encouraged, and I moved on. My landlord is the best. And no problem, sign the lease, everything's fine. If we need anything, just about anything, he says, if you need a nail to be put in the wall, call us. I don't want you to pay any money. And for that, we're grateful. Like anything at all we need. He's very nice. We can call him at any hour of the night. So I'm just here to let you all know that this program has really benefited me, my daughter, my granddaughter, and my son, or else we would be at least homeless right now.
Thank you, Maxine.
Thank you for sharing.
We have had, as I
Go ahead,
said, a
Jack.
number of successful connections. We had another member of our family here. Unfortunately, she had to jump off for another meeting, but I do have a testimonial from one of our registered nurses, Abby Doyle. She says here, this program has been nothing short of a miracle. Without having this program, I would not be able to stay on Nantucket due to affordability. Having this program has allowed me to continue to work and live in the community that I have been able to call home. If it was not for this program, I'm not sure where I would be or what I would be doing. This program has changed my life, and I'm able to live in a place that I feel proud and comfortable in. I cannot thank the program enough for this opportunity and what it has given myself and my future. And that's going to be kind of the resounding theme for most of the people that I've dealt with in this program. Really a very good tool in the short term for people on Nantucket.
Thank you, Jack. Would anyone else like to share a comment? Chris?
Hi, thank you, Brian. Chris Trost. I just wanted to mention that I think what's important to know about this program is that it's a bridge program. The work that the Affordable Housing Trust and so many entities on the island are doing is phenomenal in finding ways to bring permanent housing solutions, whether it's ownership or rental, into the reality for so many of our year-round residents. But I think this bridge program, which is what I like to call it, is a great short-term solution for getting people who would have to leave in beds now to bridge the gap until the other solutions come together. So I really endorse the program. It's what helped me get involved with it from the beginning. I think it runs smoothly. I've only heard good things from the people who are participants. And I really hope that you guys, with the partnership that's going to be proposed on how it will work both financially and logistically, will be a great win-win for the community. So I hope that you will endorse it and take it on for sponsorship.
Thank you, Chris. Any other members? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the discussion, and Christy, open to Colin, I believe.
Yes.
Colin, do you have access for a screen share for your slides?
Chair Sullivan. Yeah, I do. Let me share.
Great.
Make sure everybody can see that. Let me get into slideshow mode. that look good for everyone?
Colin, before you go ahead, can I just say a few words quickly? This is Julia Lindner.
If that's okay with Chair Sullivan?
Go ahead, Julia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Colin, as you know, is going to be doing the bulk of the presentation here, but I just wanted to make a quick I'll give you guys a quick update. So obviously this presentation is meant to answer some of the questions that you've had that we heard since our last update to you. And it includes a more refined proposal on a funding request for next year, which would be sort of the first year after the pilot program for lease to locals. We would hope that what we're going to do is extend an offer to renew to the existing homeowners at a lesser incentive than year one, and grow the program, basically doubling it with an additional 22 or some 20 something units. One of the things that you were all asking about was, well, who will run the program? The town certainly isn't interested in running the program, and frankly, I totally understand that. You have extremely limited resources. So Ann Kutzpa is here with us today, and she, I think, can attest that if we can all put the funding sources together, and that includes the private funding that we are well on our way to raising, as well as if you all agree that this is a worthwhile cause for you and fund the incentive portion, then I believe Anne and her organization are standing by to take over the administration of the program, understanding that there would be a smooth transition between Act Now Community Initiatives and Housing Nantucket. So maybe she'd like to say something at some point during the presentation or at the end. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you. And I will pass it back to Colin if that works with you, Mr. Chair.
Now, actually, now you've opened up, I've got to give Anne an opportunity to speak because you've kind of addressed her. And then you did mention private funding, Julia. Can you enlighten us? Are you doing the fundraising, or is Anne doing the fundraising, or what does that
So
look
we
like?
are doing the fundraising. Understanding that Housing Nantucket may not have the capabilities of raising, private funds at this point to this magnitude. So we are showing up with the commitments, and that's what we're working on right now.
And what is the commitment?
So it's it's basically the cost of operating the program. So it's the cost of hiring placemate plus any sort of ancillary expenses like, sort of admin internally for Housing Nantucket.
Do you have a dollar?
Effectively, we hope to raise a minimum of $150,000.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anne, do you want to take a moment since you were addressed in Julia's comments? Penny, I see you.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead, Anne, and then I'll come back to Penny.
Okay, thank you. Ann Cuspa here, Executive Director of Housing Nantucket. And my board discussed, and we are very interested in taking on this program, as Julia mentioned, and I'm really looking forward to serving the community in this way. We think it's a great thing.
Okay, thank you, Anne. Penny, go ahead.
Quick question through you, Mr. Chair, to Julia Lindner. When she mentions 150,000, is that annually that you're committing to?
So part of what we've been discussing with Anne and her organization is that we would like to help them grow their fundraising capabilities, so that the definite commitment is year one. But obviously what we hope is to help them grow the ability to raise that money on an annual basis. And that means, passing on some of the donors and the donor relations and our program onto her. And that's why I say there's going to be a transition in that sense. Does that help, Penny?
Okay.
All right, Penny, does that answer your, sorry, I assume that answers your question.
Yeah, she hasn't come back in. You're all set, Julia.
No, I said it does. I'm sorry.
So with that, Colin, we'll open to you for your presentation.
Thank you, Chair Sullivan. Thank you, trust members. Julia, really great kickoff. Also, Christy, thank you for the introduction. We're going to try to cover a lot today, but I want to make sure the bulk of this is talking about the asks. So that's the third thing here. But I think as a way of reintroduction, I'll go over a little bit more about the program and what it looks like on the tenant and owner side of things. I think great having a real tenant here to talk about the experience, but we want to show you behind the curtain a little bit, and then we'll review the pilot program results and update from the last time we presented. So with that, I think we've shown a version of this slide before, but just as a reminder, the Lease to Locals program helps convert the existing housing stock in a tourist town and convert it into a year-round rental for local employees. It allows communities like yours to effectively and quickly unlock missing middle housing. I think, as Christy said, this is aligned with the select board's goals of exploring incentives to encourage year-round rentals. It's a tried and true program, both in Nantucket and in 9 other markets across the country. The way it works at a high level, this is just a good reminder, is that we're connecting property owners and tenants. Kind of goes down this process of a 1, 2, 3. We make sure the property qualifies first. Does it meet the criteria? We'll talk about what those look like on Nantucket. We make sure the tenants are qualified, and how those are defined varies market to market. And so again, we'll have the opportunity to weigh in on that here. And then lastly, we give the property owner a cash incentive to convert the property. It's usually in 2 installments, half upfront and half at the end of the lease. The partnership that comes in is typically between a nonprofit or a local jurisdiction. So in this case, we've been running this program with Act Now Community Initiatives, as was mentioned. We administer the program in the sense of we're the face of it for the homeowners, the tenants, for the elected officials, anyone else that's interested in this. But really, it's funded by another entity. So that's kind of the connection between the two. If there's any questions about any of the words on the slides or anything, feel free to stop me. But I'm just going to keep going for the sake of time. Property owner journey starts here where we get contacted. We have marketing materials and a website and dedicated phone number. We'll get emails, introductions, forwards from real estate agents, you name it. So, the first and most important thing is to get on the phone with the property owner, understand their readiness. Do they understand the program? Are they willing to commit to the restrictions on the program? They'll often come to us either having already an idea of a tenant in mind, or they'll need some help finding a tenant. So that's kind of, sort of this next journey is either list your property with us or go out and find tenants. But ultimately, we have to go through and help them meet all the terms of the program, make sure the tenants are qualified, qualify the tenants. We'll talk about that in a second. Lastly, we submit an application. In this case, it goes to Julia at Act Now Community Initiative. She cuts the checks and makes sure everything meets the program criteria, all of the supporting documentation. All of this is customized by market. So we have specific needs for the Nantucket market, such as looking up occupancy records and in the GIS. It's very detailed. And then lastly, as I said before, the grant is distributed usually in 50% increments. And that's how we're doing it in Nantucket. So half once the tenants move in, half at the end of the lease. On the tenant side, most tenants are coming to us. We're getting introductions from Jack at the hospital. People are finding out about us, coming to our website and creating a renter profile. That's the kind of the first step for us to know who they are. When they do want to engage with a homeowner that has a property for rent, we mask some of the information about their profile as to not violate Fair Housing Act. So we obfuscate the last name. We don't show job title, but rather just employer. So there's no front of house versus back of house discrimination, if you know what I mean, on the renter side. They can find listings on our site, or we give homeowners the opportunity to have other sites they can post on. So, their job is to really, connect in with the homeowner here. They make contact with the property owner. And then lastly, we review their eligibility. Right now, we look for pay stubs and employer letters to make sure they're locally employed. We'll talk about what the restrictions look like for the tenant as a reminder. Lastly, we review the lease, make sure that all the terms of the program are met. And then we verify move-in. So if all that happens, the magic on both sides, we then will issue the check. So just as a reminder on the high end, what we do, what Placemate does kind of in the middle, determine eligibility, provide customer support, ensure program compliance. Again, property owners can either come with tenants or need help finding tenants. And tenants can either find a listing through us on another listing site. You guys have a lot of word of mouth, so it can be, Visa, the grocery store line, vis-a-vis. Or lastly, they can actually approach us and say, I know about a property that's empty. Could you talk to the owner? So that's another interesting way that's happened a lot actually on Nantucket, is the tenants are finding the properties, convincing the owner with the incentive that this is a good idea. And then we start the whole journey there. Lastly, on the back end, this is a little kind of insight into what we call our program tracker. This is an example from Truckee. So we're in the hundreds of properties unlocked. You can kind of see that in the background here. We have aggregate data as well as property level data that we are able to pull. It's in real time. It's pulled from our CRM into a shared tracker with the local jurisdiction, or in this case with Julia from Act Now. It allows us to report on budget, things like rent price, anything else that we want to see. And what's really nice about this is from an accountability standpoint, this can be rolled up and brought into presentations like we are doing today. So there's no lost data, really efficiently tracked. And this is just our commitment as a good partner here. So with that, I'm going to keep going on the pilot program, bring us back to Nantucket. So we went through these last time, but as a reminder, the property has to be located on Nantucket. It cannot have already been occupied as a year-round rental in the past 12 months. So again, the idea is underutilized property, short-term rentals, empty carriage houses, even empty rooms. A new lease has to be signed with long-term tenants for 12 months or greater. We currently have a rent cap of no more than $5,000 per unit. And the incentives are varied based on the size of the unit and the number of qualified tenants. This is on the next slide. And at least one member of the household has to be locally employed for a year-round employer. And incentives are given to children. Any child or children in the house counts as one additional qualified tenant to just ensure that families aren't discriminated against and people are chasing the highest number of qualified tenants. Even though a child doesn't work, we want to kind of treat them as part of the household in that sense. The next slide shows the incentive structure. So from private room up to 2-bedroom or greater. So this basically is first conversation with the homeowners to understand the size of the unit, how many people they're comfortable with having in, or if they have tenants, how many they have identified, and who works locally and who doesn't. We do allow, sort of we have one example of a couple where there's a remote worker husband and a Nantucket Cottage Hospital employee and a child. So they actually count as 2 qualified tenants, even though the adult husband doesn't work locally, because we want to, again, kind of understand that there's different types of households. So again, the nice part about this incentive structure is you're really only paying for the type of workforce or tenant that you want to incentivize for. So this is where we've been with the program until we paused it in February. So that's an update that we have used all the funding from Act Now's initial $400,000 in incentive funds. We have 103 total property owners that have reached out to us. Right out of the gate, about half are either not interested or not qualified. So since we paused the program, we have a rather large wait list of folks that are interested in, if the program relaunches, participating. So 28 are currently on the wait list, and we have 22 program participants today. The average cost per bedroom that we're spending on these 22 units is about $9,000 for the incentive. And you can see the makeup of bedroom sizes. So we were happy to see larger homes as well. So some 3 bedrooms. So that's the results. In terms of the tenant side of thing, 54 total people housed, 46 of those are qualified tenants. Again, that's the number we pay the incentive on, but you can see there's households where there's non-qualified tenants as well. Average rent has been $3,200 roughly, and the average rent per bedroom is about $1,800. One thing that we want to talk about very clearly is retention of these existing pilot program participants. So we do a midpoint check-in at the middle of the lease. This is a little bit in the weeds here, but you can see the ones I've circled are ones we completed the midpoint check-in. We ask a question to the property owner, would you renew? We don't ask the question with additional incentives in the second year, but nearly every homeowner that's reached out to me has said, I would love to keep going, but I need incentives to make it work at the rent price that I'm at, or with the situation and, sort of my unique situation. In our other markets, every other market we run this in, we do not offer incentives past the first year. So it's a one-time incentive. We see retention at the lowest in a market, we see about 50%. The highest is 70% or above. So I would expect if we didn't provide any additional incentives, even though these folks have indicated they would want an additional incentive, at least half would still rent. So this program, as mentioned, is a bridge program. Often this is, meant to stop the bleeding, stop the people, leaving the island. And even without additional incentive, I would expect we would still see a lot of folks staying in these units. But there was guidance from the trust last time on how do we increase that retention, and we've addressed that in slides here in the third section of this program, or this presentation. These are a couple testimonies. These are kind of long, so I'm not going to read them fully. But Christine sort of echoes here as a property owner what we want to see, which is this program worked well for us. We would want an incentive to keep going. It's helping with the Nantucket Shuffle. And then again, a renter here, same thing. This program has been great. So you heard some other testimonials in real life from Jack and the hospital employees. And the midpoint check-ins, we're getting overwhelmingly positive feedback, but there's a big question on what happens in year 2. So that's what we'll want to address in the rest of the presentation, as well as relaunching the program to allow new program participants to come in. So with that program relaunch, I'm going to kind of go through and look at the feedback you provided last time, bullet by bullet, and then we're going to jump right into sort of the budget and the ask. So first, I think the ask was, could we provide additional incentives to make sure that we have the highest possible retention from the pilot program participants, the 22 homeowners and 54 tenants? So we have an answer to that. Julia mentioned it as well, is offer an incentive of 50% of the initial incentive in year 2. So give some money to try to ensure that retention is the highest possible. Second one was a question on how do we think about, making sure that we have multi-year budget built into this, both in terms of, can we think about this for the new participants coming in? What does that step down look like for them in terms of incentives, as well as a budget to look at doing this while we bridge the gap for some of the projects that AHT is bringing on around construction. And so we address that in the next slide as well. The next one was very clear. If we are to use AHT funds, we need to have a tenant income cap, which we don't currently have today. So we have a recommendation on that, max 240% AMI for the tenants. Julia mentioned this one with a nonprofit running the program is guidance from the trust as well. So we would ensure that our ask is only for AHT funds to be used for incentives. Program admin fee would be raised privately. Program would be administered privately to not burden staff. And I think that threads the needle nicely on the request. And then lastly, to control for affordability, we could have rent caps by unit size. So we have a proposal on what that looks like versus an overall rent cap. So those are the 5 bullets from previous AHT meetings. I'm going to go over, this is a very detailed sort of breakdown of a multi-year approach, but the real kind of takeaways at the top. So first, we're asking AHT to fund year 1 incentives for up to $550,000 for September 1 relaunch. What that looks like is what's bolded here. So that's going to be 22 new properties coming in this fall. And again, it's sort of over a year horizon, so they won't all come on September 1st. And also funding the initial pilot program property participants at a 50% incentive. Again, assuming some loss, so we're not saying it's a full 100% retention. We're hoping to get up to 80%. And this kind of cascades as a color-coded thing for each of the future years, just to give you a sense of both the number of properties that could participate, the number of cumulative properties, assuming some sort of natural attrition, as well as the cumulative number of people that could be housed from this program. So I think these are pretty powerful numbers. Our year 1 ask to relaunch this program is $550,000. Second bullet here is the intention to show the entire amount is not to say you're on the hook for 5 years of this program and this is how much money we need. We want to parse the request to today, knowing that the intention is actually to explore growing the private funding. Julia mentioned bringing that capacity up. And I think that's a real possibility based on the conversations that Anne and Julie and I have. So future years could be funded privately, both for incentives and obviously for admin. And then lastly, the wind down, this is a hypothetical wind down here, should be timed to when AHT vacant land is being developed and comes online. Again, if this is treated as a bridge, this could be a nice stopgap to when dozens of units are coming online in the future. And And then the last slide really is just to give you insight. Again, these are up for discussion, but the proposed rent caps by unit size are based in both what we saw from the current lease to locals participants, as well as guidance from Christie and staff. So these are recommendation, and then obviously require qualified tenants to not earn more than 240% AMI based on the restrictions of the funding. So that's my presentation. I'm leaving 20 minutes for lots of discussion, I hope. Chair Sullivan, I'll kick it back to you, and I can unshare or go back. Maybe this is the best slide to leave it on. And I see some hands too, so I'm going to stop talking.
Great, thank you, Colin. Yeah, if you could leave the slides up, that would be great. I will go to Penny first. I saw her hand up a couple of times. So let's take them one at a time, Penny.
Okay, because I can't help myself. I have a whole bunch of questions and a couple of comments. Overall, I'm concerned about us using public money for a project that is not restricted in perpetuity. And I understand people are viewing this as a stopgap or a bridge program, as has been stated, but there is no guarantee that any of these people are going to be housed in affordable, funded by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund developments. Anne can tell you she had over 100 people apply for the restricted units at Wiggles, and over, I believe, Anne, you said it was over 300 for the restricted to 80% AMI or less, and it was over 350, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they were enormous numbers. It's just enormously competitive. And I don't want to be in a position of funding something with tax dollars that's not in perpetuity, and at the end of this, being faced with putting people out of this program. I have a real concern about that. I'd also like to hear from our attorney if he has any thoughts on using public tax money for something that's not restricted in perpetuity, and how that impacts also with the federal fair housing laws. Thank you.
So I'm going to come to Lee since that was a direct question.
So I guess in fairness to myself, I'm just getting up to speed on this project, but I have been following the presentation, and I'd like an opportunity to look into that question a little more closely and get back to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee.
Thank
you. Julia, are you? I can't see your face, so I'm not sure. Are you looking to respond directly to one of Penny's
I was just going
questions?
to answer, like, on the question that Penny just mentioned about using taxpayer money. That's completely fair to ask the lawyer. That makes complete sense that you would cross your T's, dot your I's. I can think of at least one other example where taxpayer money is used in a not quite similar, but I would say we could use it as an example. So in human health services appropriations, there's money that goes to the rent assistance, right, program. So that would be an example of a program that's not necessarily monitored the way that in certainly not in perpetuity or affordable by definition. And I think that, you know, the town certainly did look into using taxpayer money to appropriate for rental assistance for its own employees, and perhaps that's another example. So,
yeah, I'm gonna come to Christy because I think she wanted to respond to your question as well. Christy, go ahead, and then I'll come back to you, Penny.
Thank you.
Thank you. And not giving legal advice, but in all of these discussions, I've talked with John Giorgio a couple of times, as Provincetown just launched their lease to locals, and they're actually doing it directly through their town. And he had expressed that there wasn't really a concern around the public use, but your question around fair housing is that would all kind of be in a grant agreement, that the town would not be held responsible if there was any situation that arose, that we would be protected against that. But he had no concerns in the conversations with Provincetown or speaking with me about Nantucket around fair housing. So I just wanted to pass that along.
Okay, Thank you. Just my biggest concern is the perpetuity piece of this. I think one of the great successes of Nantucket in the affordable housing arena, which we started many, many years ago, is the covenant housing program. And the reason that's successful is those properties are deed restricted in perpetuity. And they add, I think it's what, Ann, 113 of them now. I also feel, I understand the benefit of this program, certainly to the owners who are getting more rent, and obviously to the tenants, and that it provides housing. I would like to know, has anybody talked to bond counsel about leveraging this money? Are we allowed to do that in this case?
Christy?
So we would not be able to use bonded funds for this. This would come out of our $6.5 million override and the cash that we have.
And can you explain why we can't use bonded funds?
I'm not sure of their exact reasoning, but I can follow up with Brian Turbot and get back to you.
That would be an important factor for me to know.
Yeah,
before-
we usually use bonded funds for the purchase of real estate, and this would just be a rental, not an acquisition. But I will confirm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Penny. Dave, coming to you.
Yeah, I just, my concerns follow Penny's. And that's not that I don't think that this is an important program that serves a purpose, but I have concerns and questions. I mean, we're totaling $2.1 million. That at our current cost per unit is 3 housing units in perpetuity that is safe and secure for community members. And so I just, for me, I'm struggling with that amount of money, and that there's no guarantees for these people, or I just am concerned that in some ways we're continuing the shuffle for these people because there's no guarantee that landlord will continue on with that program the next year. And so my concerns are fair housing, which seems like maybe we have that fair squared away. B, is this the best use of taxpayer money, which we have a responsibility to spend it in the wisest way and have it best serve the community in the best way possible. So those are my concerns with the program at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. One thought as I think about cash versus debt, cash turns into much more of a significant amount of money when we use it for debt. So the cost opportunity lost is challenging, but Meg, to you.
Thanks, Brian. I'd like to express that I want to make sure that we don't, whatever the expression is, throw out a good program looking for something perfect. I think that Lease to Locals has been proven successful. And I think that it is housing islanders now, and it's working. I think it's putting people who are at risk of losing their housing into permanent year-round leases, which is what they need. I think optically, Affordable Housing Trust could afford to celebrate this publicly, that we're supporting a program that can potentially house hundreds of people, or continue to house hundreds of people. I think if we can get beyond the legalities and figure out how we can work within the parameters necessary to make this functional, I think spending, if I understand correctly, if Placemate and Anne and Julia could correct me if I'm wrong, if we're looking at spending approximately $548,000 to support a total of 97 people housed in year 1, the price per individual housed is astronomically lower than anything else we're looking at right now. And while I agree with others who've mentioned that we don't want to be like a stopgap a stopgap board or what have you, I think the reality is that the housing crisis is happening now immediately. It's been happening for years. And if we forego an opportunity as the town's Affordable Housing Trust to support a successful program that's proven itself, that has additional private funding, that's going to be managed by another nonprofit with a price tag of $500,000, it's an opportunity lost that would be really unfortunate. So I fully support this proposal. I think it would be an amazing collaboration between Lease to Locals, Placemate, Affordable Housing Trust, the town in general, and Housing Nantucket. I applaud them for coming up with this proposal. And I'm just super excited to see where it goes. And I would really love for AHT to figure out what we need to figure out in the back end so that we can be a part of this and make some changes in Islanders' lives now and not wait until the next unit is built out or purchased, and actually just get some housing up on the market now. And you never know, these lease to local housing situations could eventually roll into a potential year-round deed restriction or some other kind of situation that could be beneficial for the island. And I think it's really great. Thank you.
Shanta? Thanks, Meg.
Thank you. I just want to echo all of what Meg just said, and I think it's really important that we explore properly how we can make this happen, because the housing crisis isn't going to go anywhere if we don't get creative. There are families that are currently housed because of this program that I wonder what's going to happen to them if we don't find a way to continue this. And then also all the other families that we could be helping that will lose. Hearing testimony from our folks over at the hospital that, and having a face to put to this program is so huge. I just think that we need to get all our questions answered and not pass up this opportunity. Because it has, and while I will admit I need a little bit more than just 1 year to see the success rate of the program, I think that we have the opportunity to continue it so that we can really say that we gave it a fighting chance. And as a taxpayer on this island, I'm not opposed to my tax dollars going towards a program that's really going to help my neighbors and my friends and families stay on this island.
Thank you, Shanta. Penny, if I may jump in before, do you want to go? I have some questions.
You go ahead.
Okay. So I have some specific questions for both the board and where'd he go? I lost them. Oh, Colin, there you are. And for Colin, do we think that this program could be successful if the number went from 240% AMI to 175% AMI? Or less for tenant qualification in an effort to help tenants that are in a more challenged financial situation get access to housing? Because at 240, the income level for a household is almost 350,000. So I'm wondering if we can help that the group of tenants better in that scenario. So 175 and less. And I want to make sure that the existing tenants that will work. The process improving the transition from either an empty home, a seasonally used home, a short-term rental into a year-round lease. You mentioned using the town's MapGeo or assessor's database. I'm hopeful we're looking at a number of real concrete ways to identify how the property was previously used, so we don't have existing tenants or homeowners looking to come into the program for the incentive. So it's important to me that that's the case. I also question, in doing the program, will we allow a homeowner with multiple properties or units to continue to come back for incentives? Or is this an opportunity for new homeowners to be brought into the program? It's kind of, these are just kind of nuts and bolts things that I want to understand and figure out. I do like the rent cap by size. I do like the 50% on the coming back. I really, if you feel, Colin, that the program will be successful at a rate of 50% without any subsidy, moving forward and people re-signing up, that's very exciting to me. That at least half would come back, so it wouldn't be a loss of 97. And coming in, rent cap by size, less money, turbid follow-up. I have heard some stories of people who weren't able to qualify for the program for a variety of reasons that I saw on social media. And it's concerning to me to understand who doesn't qualify and who does qualify, in the sense of, originally, I believed it was going from STR into year round. I think there were some family members who may have not qualified. Do they or don't they? I just want to make sure we're delivering that concept to, what the qualifications are to the public, really detailed, before we approve the funding mechanism. I think those were my most questions. Could we be successful at serving a lower income rate? And then how do we really qualify the houses that are being converted into the program? Go ahead, Colin.
Thank you, Chair Sullivan. So I know we have a hard stop in 5 minutes, so maybe I'll try to address as much as I can. First off, the 175% AMI. We did not require income to be disclosed, but we did get letters from every employer. We went back and scrubbed as many of those that did include employment. And 175% AMI would be, I think 95 or even 100% of the tenants would qualify. That is a very high number. Most of our markets, it's 150% or 120% AMI. So 240 is high. The up to could be brought down to 175, I think, with very little concern. The second question you had was prior property use. So we have several mechanisms. Itself is sort of an affidavit on the application from the owner. We also ask tenants to give us an ID and verify where they're currently living, ask them to verify where they're currently living. So we have caught some scenarios in other markets, especially in a Truckee where we have 150 properties, where we've caught a few where they were already renting and it's sort of a handshake deal with the tenant landlord. We have not identified any of that today in Nantucket, so that has not been an issue. To your point about retention at 50%, even without an incentive, that's the lowest in any of our markets. So the highest we've seen is Truckee, where we're now in year 4, and we have 90% of the homeowners still renting that have been doing this 3-4 years ago, because it does flip the switch for them. Again, the idea, well, this is not in perpetuity. It's causing a lot of folks to not sell the unit or not short-term rent. And once they get a good tenant in there, if you've been a landlord yourself, a tenant in the hand, right? Whatever the saying is, this is meant to get you a really good year-round tenant that you may not have otherwise considered. And we had some testimonials from the hospital. I think we're seeing a lot of school districts, and I'll just go back to this slide in the appendix, right? We've got public schools, we've got all different types, walks of life, but these are the lifeblood of the community that need to be here full time. These leases offer that opportunity for them. If it's another year of them not leaving, right, that is amazing for them. Yes, do they want to have a house forever for the rest of their life? Sure, but this is a really, really amazing program to provide, so basically stop the bleeding. So I think I addressed all of your questions. The last one was like really getting the nitty gritty of the looking at program policies. We have very detailed program policies that ACT Now and us authored that lay out all the scenarios available to the public. We offer them on our website. It would be something we could, knowing we're out of time here, we could bring that back with program policies reviewed ahead of time, with things like the rent cap added in, the AMI updated. That could be a good potential next step. We often have that done with elected officials prior to them approving funding anyway. I know this is not a fully elected board, but that could be a really good next step potentially.
That would be great. And then I have a sort of a follow-up question. The way the program is working as far as pairing owners and tenants, and while I think the incentive is strong and interesting, there may be an opportunity for community members here that might not be interested in the incentive. And I've brought this up before, is there non-for-profit opportunity in people donating some portion of their rent? Is there a way to capture that through Housing Nantucket in a tax deductible donation through rent through you, Colin? So if you could explore that opportunity. I see the school heavily advertising, looking for unique situations. So while we're looking at this as purely an incentive program, my question to you, Colin, is does your annual cost of operations increase in the sense if the program took on situations that weren't just paying incentives, but becoming more of a year-round warehousing place for homeowners and tenants?
We offer
some other
that
incentive opportunities, whatever those look like.
Yeah, we have this matching platform. If you go to PlaceMate and create a renter profile, you can see that people connect. There are properties that aren't leased to locals. We built the idea of the whole company was we want to be Airbnb, but for locals housing, right? And so in every market we operate, there are folks that are not eligible for lease to locals that post and say, I'm looking for a tenant, and they're making connections every day. So we hope to build that up on Nantucket. We have hundreds of people, as Penny mentioned, looking for housing that have filled out renter profiles. If we can build up that sort of word of mouth, and Housing Nantucket has a property they want to post, or a landlord wants to post without needing the incentive, they certainly can for free. There's no additional admin for us. That's a self-service platform that we built for the purpose of not lease to locals, and then it applies really well to lease to locals.
Okay, great. So I know we're just about out of time. I'm going to go Penny. Lee, do you need a moment, or are you just listening intently?
Just listening. I'm good.
Okay,
Okay, great. So I'll come to Penny, then to Julia, and then we'll wrap. Penny?
Super fast here, a couple of observations and then a suggestion. Just so everybody understands, when we throw out 175 AMI right now is about 238,000, okay, annually. Somebody referred to this as a permanent program. It's not. I think we just need to be careful about that. I would like to look into some sort of collaboration on the subsidy funding. I think, Brian, what you just suggested with tax credits or write-offs or whatever is an excellent idea, but is there not a way to collaborate on the subsidy funding? And then lastly, I'd like to suggest that we get questions answered that have been asked here today, and we continue this to another meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. So with that, Julia, do you have a specific question you want to answer? Because I'm going to get ready to close the meeting and continue.
Mr. Chair, it was your question about qualifying tenants. So the idea that you heard that, you know, some people may not qualify, the only reason that someone would not qualify, or the few reasons, right, would include that they don't work for an employer that is based on Nantucket.
It was qualifying homeowners, Julia, not tenants.
Oh, homeowners. Right. So, and the only qualifying, other than, you know, your property is not permitted for whatever use you're trying to get an incentive for, would be that you're trying to rent for above the cap.
Or your prior use.
Correct. So absolutely. And I think we have been very transparent with you all that, you know, if we could grow this program unlimitedly, if we had unlimited amount of money, yeah, you would help the homeowners who are currently year-round renting continue to do so with something, right? Some sort of a little incentive. You're absolutely right. That is a group that we're not serving by this program. Correct. We're trying to create new year-round rentals.
Thank you, Julia. So with that, knowing we have a hard stop, I think we have a request of town council, we have a request of bond council, and then Colin, I think that you've taken diligent notes. There's a handful of specific questions for you. Christy, I'll let you summarize, but I think we're going to keep this open until the next meeting.
Yes.
Go ahead, Christy.
So I was just going to say our next meeting is in 2 weeks from today on June 25th. And I was just going to say, I wrote down as many notes, but it'd be really helpful if trust members or even community members and people watching this feature on YouTube, if there's any questions that you could send to me ahead of time so that we can get those questions prepared and prepped. We posted this agenda prior to the meeting on the town site, and we'll continue to do that. So things will be available to the public. And I just wanted to thank everybody. This has, I know, been a lot of work with PlaceMate and Housing Nantucket and Julia to kind of get this program launched and to feed all, go through all of the questions that we've had over the last couple of months. I just personally think that, you know, we try to do a lot of things around constructing new units of affordability, conserving the existing, and then converting what we can. And this is just kind of one of those tools in our toolbox that could convert things into year-round use. So I'm excited to explore the conversation more at our next meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Christy. So we've covered item 8, other business, so June 25th. Mark your calendars, 1:30. Any other business? Seeing none. Any board comments? Seeing none, close board comments. I'll look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
Motion from Meg, second from Penny. By roll call, Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Penny Dye.
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Meg Bowers,
Aye.
Chantal Murphy,
Aye.
and again, everybody moved around. And Brian Sullivan's and I think that's enough. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.